We are like 30 minutes into this podcast, and we have not asked about the Rams quarterback at all. So let me ask about Matthew Stafford's play in 2023, considering he's coming off a season where he had injuries. Jake, what have you seen from the Rams quarterback? We have to ask about this. I can't believe it's been this long already.
It's so he currently has one of the most unfair stat lines I think I've ever seen for a quarterback. It is brutal. Some of the throws he makes, not some, most of the throws he makes, all 22, you're like, who the hell's making that? And it's just a constant thing. He actually has the second most drops. So as great as Puka Nakua's been, he's leading the league in drops. He dropped a touchdown last week. Not trying to pile on the rookie fifth rounder too much, but Stafford's dealing with that. He had 2 drop touchdowns last week that could have made that 40-9 against the Cardinals. So kind of frustrating for him. Although he stayed true to himself. He hasn't thrown anyone under the bus, but. Yeah, I mean, he's had one of those seasons where, you look at the turnover-worthy plays and you see Desmond Ridder up there within the 20s, and then you see Stafford at the bottom of the league with like 3, and he's got like 5 interceptions, and you're like, how does this happen? It's been that. Every bounce seems to go to the other team. And then the touchdowns, they're dropped, or, you have some good play to get yourself in the red area. And the Rams have run the ball with Kyron Williams because he's got a nose for the end zone, consistency, and there you have it. So, Stafford's been one of the top 5 quarterbacks in football this year. The stats don't indicate that, the film does. And so when you see somebody like that who can layer it over a defensive back or layer it over a linebacker, look guys off, look the safety off, freeze guys, and then just the fact that he's able to just stay in there, stare down the barrel of the shotgun and just throw the ball. Know he's going to take a hit, but hold on to it a little bit longer so he's able to get that big play. Could have taken his check down. Instead, he ends up getting that 20, 30-yard play to Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell. And that's really been what Stafford has been for the Rams this year. A lot of people felt like, first off, coming into the season, I heard nonstop tank for Caleb Williams. Like, you can say, no NFL team with players. No NFL team with players. The players are not tanking in this league. So that's ridiculous. Right. But it was constantly tank for Caleb Williams because people were concerned about Stafford's, spinal cord contusion, which I get. I mean, that sounds scary, right? But he's looked really good. Coming into the season, he lost some weight. They have kind of a new offense. They kind of built from the ground up. Still have a lot of what they did last year, but they're using more, gap scheme runs instead of zone this year. And just they've been getting Stafford out on the move a little bit more. And you could tell, like, he's definitely lighter on his feet. He's the healthiest he's been in years. That was, of course, before the hip injury, against the Colts, but he feels really good. He constantly brings it up. I think he's fully healthy now. I think the hip injury was just kind of like a 1-week thing. Kind of went through that against Philly, but you didn't see any limitations against the Cardinals. And just at the end of the day, this guy knows what he needs to do for them to be successful. One thing I will say is I think the amount of shots he takes, he has that Brett Favre like gunslinger mentality, and he can get himself into trouble because of that. And I think there's been a heavy emphasis, and you could see it. He's taken some coverage sacks where there's sometimes where, hey, I can make this throw. He's cocky armed. Everyone knows it, but he's taken some sacks in the past 2 weeks where it's a good play because you'd rather take that sack and live to play another down or throw it away than taking that big shot down the field and having that go, the other way and giving a momentum swing to the other team. And so, I think with the way the defense is played, shut out the Cardinals in the second half, and they've been lights out for the most part, haven't allowed a ton of touchdowns. They held the Eagles to 24 points. I think the way they've been playing, there's a heavy emphasis on Stafford to, yes, be Stafford, but also be cautious and cognizant of what you're doing with the football. And if you don't need a big play, it's kind of like what coaches are now preaching because of the touchback rule. Don't reach out for the pylon unless it's fourth down. because if you fumble out of the back of the end zone, now they're getting the ball. So you got to be careful. And it's almost like you got to have some controlled aggression. You still want to be aggressive. You still want to be mindful. Hey, we got to put points on the board. We still got to test the defense. And this is a defense that you could throw against as long as you're able to throw the ball before TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith rip it out. But at the same time, you have to be mindful. This is a team that can turn the ball over. They can take the ball away. Patrick Peterson's not having his best year. He was insane last year in Minnesota. I don't think this is just going to continue on. Like, I think at some point it's going to really click. He's going to get into a rhythm, and, he's a turnover magnet. So those will come in bunches, and I just hope it's not in this game. And the best way for that not to happen, back-to-back games, Stafford hasn't thrown a pick and has played really good, high-quality football, controlling the football, not turning the ball over. I think is to just keep doing what he's doing and, take what the defense gives you, take some shots, be aggressive, but be controlled in your aggression.
It's hard as an offensive coordinator when you have a car like a Matthew Stafford who has an arm like Brett Favre. It's hard when you have a Matthew Stafford, a Josh Allen, and I'm missing my third quarterback. It's just hard when you got that kind of talent to put a leash on them.
Oh, so I know.
You live and die by them. So everything we want them to do as a pocket quarterback, they can't do as a pocket quarterback because they won us too many games. So they'll win us more games, even though our coaching might not be on point, than lose us games. So the Matthew Staffords, the Josh Allens, I'm missing my third one. I just had them in my head.
Mahomes?
The Mahomes, those guys, they off script. So when you got guys who off script, they take a lot more chances. And sometimes they hit their streaks on turning the ball over when you take them chances. But Mahomes, 2 Super Bowls. Matthew Stafford left Detroit, wound up going with a brilliant mind, and Sean McVay won him a Super Bowl. Josh Allen ain't been doing nothing but being in the AFC Championship. He just got to get over the hump with Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl. So when you look at guys who have that kind of talent at the quarterback position, it's hard to put a leash on them. It's hard. They're going to have their streaks, and their streaks going to be turnovers. But at the same time, they're going to win you. They're going to out-coach you with their arm. They're going to out-coach you with their toughness. They're going to out-coach you with their off-script as an offensive coordinator. That's just what those kind of guys do. So when you have a Matthew Stafford who had a Megatron Hall of Fame, Matthew Stafford, we'll see if he gets to the Hall of Fame. But when you give a Matthew Stafford for 1 year, you give him a Sean McVay and you give him a Cooper Kupp. And Cooper Kupp ain't nothing but a quarterback playing receiver. That's all he
You're right about that one. He is so intelligent. It is crazy.
I tell people all the time, when Cooper get done playing, if Sean McVay's still a head coach, he will be on his staff. Because I just looked at off of one interview when Cooper Kupp was breaking down what the defense was doing. I said, this dude, a quarterback, just playing receiver. And then when Sean McVay talks about Cooper Kupp, he says, it's me, Matthew Stafford, and Cooper Kupp going into the game plan. So all we got to do is just listen to how the head coaches and the players talk. And Mark and I talk about this all the time. But getting back to Matthew Stafford, like Matthew just got everything you want as a quarterback. He got a live arm. He can throw it from one hash to the other, and he's going to take plenty of chances. But you put him in the right situation, he's going to win you a Super Bowl off the rip. Patrick Mahomes going to win you a Super Bowl or 2 off the rip. Josh Allen going to win you a Super Bowl or 2 off the rip if you ever get over the Patrick Mahomes, situation. So that's just what them 3 guys do. Them 3 guys, they come with chances. Like, I'm putting all my chips in. I'm betting everything on me. Either I'm going to hit or I'm not gonna hit. And that's just what it is. So when we talk about them 3 quarterbacks, we saw what Matthew Stafford did with Sean McVay. We see what Andy Reid couldn't do until he had Patrick Mahomes. Got to the promised land, just couldn't find no water. And when he got Patrick Mahomes, he got to the promised land again and found water twice. You feel me? So
yes,
that's what them kind of quarterbacks do, man. Them quarterbacks are high risk, high reward. They're gonna have a streak where they produce a lot of turnovers. But as a coach, you just deal with it. As a player, you just like, man, they just going through a slump right now. But once they get through their slump, it's gonna be hell on the league. So that's how I look at a Matthew Stafford, a tough son of a gun. I mean, the man played with a broken thumb. We talking about a spinal injury. A spinal injury, man. We said everything about Peyton Manning. When Peyton Manning had his neck injury, what the coach did, they let him go. He wound up going to Denver. 2 years later, he wound up winning them Super Bowl. So we go from neck to spinal. We know as players, when you say spinal with Matthew Stafford, that's just going to make him better. That's going to make his reads better. That's going to make him getting out of the pocket better. That's going to make him slide instead of trying to run for a first down better. It's going to make everything better. Like once you get injury prone, you just get better cerebral. You just get better. Peyton Manning always been better cerebral. That's just him. He ain't really been no athlete. Peyton Manning ain't fooling nobody when it comes down to trying to run for a first down. Matthew Stafford always had some kind of athletic ability. But now he's dealing with them kind of injuries. Man, he's gonna have a live arm till he's 70 years old. His arm gonna always be live. It's gonna always be hot. Okay, Matthew, you can't do what you once did as far as like athletic ability. Man, I need your mind. I need your decision making to be better. And he got a right coach for that. So Matthew Stafford, I hate to say it, but it's just like drinking wine. You know, once you let red wine sit, man, it just get better with age.
Let me steal your psychic ability here really quickly, right? So, Jake, you were just talking about tank for Caleb Williams. Matthew Stafford is 35 years old. Still think he has some gas left in the tank. If the Rams finally have their first-round pick and that big dinner tab is due from the Super Bowl win a few seasons back, why didn't you just try to protect Stafford's blind side in replacing Andrew Whitworth? I saw you tweeted about this, Jake.
Okay, all right.
You have Joe Alt out of Notre Dame, who I got to see firsthand in my backyard here in Raleigh, North Carolina, when Notre Dame played NC State. I saw him play against Duke. So I've seen a lot of him. And then this kid out of Penn State as well. They'll both be first-round picks. It's just a matter of when the Rams end up selecting. But my point being, you protect Stafford's blind side for however much longer he has left in the league with one of these stud left tackles, and you're going to be in business, and maybe you reload, and that's how you get back to the promised land with one more run with Stafford, who he's only 35. And look, I know Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, they're the exceptions, but the league has done a lot more to protect quarterbacks in the new school of football compared to when Ike played.
Yes. And that's 100% true. And I totally agree with you because I had this realization. I really like Alec Jackson, the left tackle. I've talked to him on Twitter, good dude, and he's a solid football player. But I feel like they need like a true book-in left tackle. They need an Orlando Pace. When they traded for him in 1997, that was the start of the greatest show on turf. No one knew it. No one had any idea. But that was the start of the greatest show on turf because you build from the inside out. So they went out, they got Marshall Faulk, they draft Orlando Pace, they draft Torrey Holt, they had Isaac Bruce from those bad teams, and then you have Kurt Warner, who just comes out of nowhere because Rodney Harrison hits Trent Green low and ends the season in preseason, and now you have the greatest show on turf. But it started with Orlando Pace. I mean, Isaac Bruce was already there, but when you get that left tackle, now anything's possible because now the quarterback doesn't have to worry about their blind side at all. And Kurt Warner said it. He's like, I never worried about my blind side when Big 76 was at left tackle. And there's no reason to. And so I look at this and I'm like, yeah, I think the Rams would be really smart to just focus on the fact, look, Stafford, I understand it's crazy. People put him in the same, category as Big Ben and Phillip Rivers and all those guys. He's not as old as they are because they see He's from 2009, and they see Sam Bradford was drafted by the Rams in 2010, and they're like, wait a minute, Bradford's been in the league for like 3 years. How is Stafford this young? Stafford was young when he came in, and so I think 100% to your point. I understand the injuries freaked us out, but now that we've seen what Stafford can do, and he hasn't lost a step, this is a no-brainer. Like, you have that first-round pick, you already are paying. I think it's $75 million this year to players that aren't on the roster. So you can just get right back out there next year. You have $60 million in cap. You got your first, your second, your third round picks. Yes, I think you should do that. I think you should trade up. I think this team's going to be in the playoffs. I don't think they're necessarily going to win the Super Bowl, but hey, wouldn't bet against Stafford if he gets hot. So here's the thing. If they're in, like, say, the 20s, like say 21, 22, you trade up, you get, into the top 5, top 10, you get at Alter or Fashanu. And I'm telling you, you have what, Steve Avila, the rookie left guard who they got from TCU in the second round, what he's doing at left guard, impressive. Coleman Shelton's a solid center. Kevin Dotson, no doubt about it, they're bringing him back after this year. I mean, I think that was the trade all along. That's why they gave up 2 picks. They wanted to get him long-term. And you got Big Rob at right tackle, Rob Havenstein, model of consistency. Then you got your weapons. Kupp's locked up. Stafford's locked up. Kyron's on a rookie deal. You got Tyler Higbee now locked up, just signed an extension. You got Puka Nacua on a rookie year deal. He's a rookie this year. And then you have Tutu Atwell on a rookie deal. The Rams are cooking. They know what they're doing right now.
You see the recipe.
I do.
You look at. I mean, we could talk about Stafford for a long time, because that's just how good he is, and it's his arm. When your arm that live, and when you've been in the league for that long, and you're gonna have some injuries because you just play quarterback. But at the same time, man, when you have a Cooper Kupp, when you have a Tuka, a young Tuka, when we talking about the most targets in the first 5 games, better than anybody else. That says a lot about Sean McVay and their front office on what they got going on over there. But it's just hard not to talk about a Matthew Stafford, man, because we always thought Matthew Stafford arm was live. As a player, we always thought, man, it ain't really the OC. And when he wound up finding the OC with his arm, it's gonna be trouble. And we saw the trouble. So we always looked at Matthew Stafford how we look at Eli Manning. Man, don't let him get in the playoffs, because once he get in the playoffs, it's a wrap. You can say what you want to say about Eli during the regular season. You can say what you want to say about Matthew Stafford during the regular season. But when you let them guys get in the playoffs, it's hell on a defense coordinator.